All right, so once we're done with phase two, you got through the test. In my previous breakdown, I talked about how I thought P3 was the easiest. I take it back. I've run it plenty times after. P3 is definitely still just as stressful in phase one and phase two, but there's no test. Okay. But what made it easy and why I said that originally is because we had a CO. Plain and simple. We had a CO, and COs just countered everything in phase three of Will. And I didn't really understand it until I ran without a CO and even ran without a bishop, and it was just brutal. Okay, so what I'm talking about here is phase three. Okay, the mechanic is very, very simple. Okay, there's a few things you have to look out for, but poison and yellow eyes are two of the things that you want to be aware of the most. Okay, and this is from your shot caller. Okay, so right off the bat, you'll see truffle, everyone stays in position. So there's two ways to attack the start. Just like in phase one, just like in phase two, you can immediately stun and get into position, get into your spots, get your burst up, get aggro situated. Okay, but another strategy is just in case the first skill of Will is always poison. Okay, so what we have here is everyone stays still, stays in their spot, which they spawn from. Truffleox E, who is our main aggro, plus what we call our poison holder, he moves closest to the boss. So this is very important. Poison is this skill right here, right? Green. It's going to go to the person nearest the boss. It does not necessarily go to aggro. It goes to the person nearest, closest to the boss. Okay, so that was Truffleox E. He gets poison. And then now we all reposition left. Okay, so again, we stunned here a little bit late, but we stunned here. Again, a great strategy allows us, see, aggro's jumping all over the place. Will is facing left and right. It just allows you a little bit of a window to get aggro stabilized. Okay, so Will is stunned here. So what that also does and why I recommend it is because poison is the indicator for what we call yellow eyes. Yellow eyes is a big will skill that's going to come, and it's pretty much going to full map attack. That is what is going to be the biggest killer of your team and what's going to cause the most wipes and fails. Okay, so here's what you want to do. Right, you see the gauge is filling. The gauge is for a separate note. This is what you want to get off at the start. Right, get this stun off. Stun is very important here because it skips. It's going to end up skipping the yellow eyes, which for most teams is very important on a rotation. Okay, so you can see aggro facing left for a little bit as aggro's jumping around. This is totally normal. It's not anyone's fault. It's not my fault. It's not Millerwing's fault who was there. It's just you have to learn this throughout running with your team and your composition, right? Truffleox E, who is our poison holder who we expect to be aggro, doesn't get aggro for a very, very long time, may not even get it here, right? Because we have a Night Lord here, we have me on my Paladin, and we have so much burst and damage. This is what a lot of teams struggle through, okay? Facing left, right? But the most important thing is here is that we get this aggro situated. So this is a great example of how things usually occur at the start, okay? Chaos, 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 chaos. And the boss, there's a skill rotation to this. Again, you'll see here. So knockback here, boss is facing left. Obviously, just horrible start. But this is what we're trying to get at. Even when things go horribly, and you'll see here, it's going to get even worse. You got to have the team and the awareness and the quick response time by the team to know what's going on. Because if you are stuck in this situation, you have to be able to adjust quickly. Okay, because this is what causes wipe. So you see here, there's no poison here. There's no green orb coming around poisoning everybody. That's kind of indicator that we know poison is coming, right? So here, poison comes, and look, it actually worked out very nicely where Truffleox E ended up being the poison aggro. But it could have been Shani right here. He was right on top of the boss, but we ended up getting poison. This is why it's important for your aggro, or you at least to have a consistent person that's able to hold poison, be the closest person to Will, right? But again, poison is the indicator for yellow eyes. And this is the make or break for phase 3. So what do I mean by that? So you'll see right here, yellow eyes. Again, we know it's coming because poison, it's always poison into yellow eyes, or you'll see later on, it's poison into a skill, a knockback skill into yellow eyes. So this is, you don't have to know the whole rotation. You just have to be aware. If poison comes, yellow eyes is following. So this is what you need to have a bishop or a Sia for, or some sort of party bubble, or also just right positioning. Okay, so here's what I'm talking about. There's a lot of different ways to play at this, but yellow eyes comes and you'll see, look, this is what you're dealing with. This is a screenshot of what attack it is. The only safe spot is where the poison holder is. You see that? Everywhere else is getting hit by legs and is taking a ton of HP scaling damage. Okay, so how did we avoid that damage altogether? We had our Sia, OP Sia, use, I think this is one of their skills that is like a party-wide iframe. Disgusting skill. So good. So insane. But that's what we got. That's why we took no damage there. Okay? We had answers. CS have answers to every single one of these. Okay, so now, once you have a good grasp of that and you have coordination, this is every team is different. So if you don't have a seer, for example, what can you do? What I recommend is I recommend Shell first. If you have a bishop or a phantom, I recommend Shell first. Okay? Shell, HP reducing skill, it's going to minimize this damage. Okay? Because this is an HP scaling skill. So we'll see it later on the fight. This happens about every 30 seconds. Okay? So here's important. So you see, rinse and repeat, knockbacks, positioning, crucial, right? Once we get aggro here, I'm aggro in this corner. We still have Trufflelock's E as the poison holder. Okay, everyone else is to the left. This is when it gets to a point of this is what you're trying to get to, right? Just everyone just tunneling, DPSing, doing the rotation, maximizing their damage. And you're going to need it when you are, like this team is, sweaty on DPS, okay? So here, knockback into poison, okay? And I know this is by heart, basically, right? So look, watch the aggros here. It happens all the time. In the middle of the fights, you cannot be nonchalant about this as a team. You got to be aware. And it happens so quickly, right? But look, knockback into yellow eyes. And people died, right? It happens, right? Whether it was through aggro, whether you got hit by the poison holder, whatever it is, people died, but we're communicating. Yellow eyes. We didn't have any skill, so use your iframes, whatever it is, use something to counter it. Okay? The team survived somehow, except for one person. Totally fine. This is a win, by the way. Okay, so we were a little late on the hourglass. Again, it happens. That was probably poor communication in comms. And again, or it could have just been the absolute chaos that ensued right before. Like it could have been knockback, everyone's slow, everyone disoriented, everyone's in a bad spot, yellow eyes comes, and this happens all the time, right? This happens all the time. Like he ends up getting hit by poison and attacks and he dies, okay? But this happens so many times and you have to be able to quickly deal with it, right? The good and bad thing is this happens pretty much every 30 seconds. So you got to have an answer for the next one, right? So now we're just rinse and repeating, DPSing. Look, aggro switched again. Knockbacks. Blink back. You get knocked back. So here's a little pro tip. If you get knocked back, you can immediately blink. You have a small cooldown window before this actually procs. This little skill lock procs. So if you're quick, you see it, you get knocked back, you immediately blink back, you'll not get skill locked. But if you do get skill locked, because you knock into the webs here, you have to use an all cure, and then you obviously have to reposition, okay? So what I want to talk about here is, again, how do we get rid of these webs? So this is what the gauge is for. You'll see, fill the gauge. I think it's about half. Every time you cleanse, it's going to take about half your gauge, and you're only going to be able to cleanse 2 of these webs. So cleansing the webs is super important, again, because of the knockback. It's going to overwhelm you. You'll see later in the fight, these webs are going to overwhelm you. And again, if stuff hits the fan and aggro jumps, you get knocked back and people get hit into the webs, you're going to take the knockback damage, you're going to take the web damage, you're going to get skill locked, you're going to all types of chaos, and you're just going to get thrown off, right? It just happens. You're going to die. So you just want to avoid this. You want to be proactive with the webs, cleanse the webs, clean the floor, right? You don't have to get up into these corners, but you just want to clear the floor in case you get knocked back. Okay, so the team is in a great spot here. Truffleox E finally gets aggro. Finally, but look at these webs are coming in, and the webs are going to come in faster as you start getting later, as Will's HP gets lower, okay? So be aware of that. Communicate. Who's cleansing? You don't want to overlap if you don't have to. So here, Hourglass, yellow eyes, right? Kept the team alive. You have an answer. Right, so here, I want you guys to be aware, one of the biggest, so we'll just finish this off here, 3 minutes, and I'll talk about some tips and tricks actually, but now we're starting to get in the groove, right? Aggro is situated, people are DPSing, right as I say that, aggro jumps again, holy smokes, everyone gets it. Copy, Andy, Homeless, me, Truffleox X, Mila, literally everyone on the team, 7, 8 people have gotten aggro in this, it's been like 2 minutes. Crazy. Just absolutely crazy, but this is stuff you have to overcome. We still have 10 lives remaining. How insane. This is our first clear. So we have, like, as like, you may think like 10 lives left. Absolutely not. There's chaos left and right. This was not perfect run by any means. DPS across the board is as like consistent. People are locked in. DPS was pretty balanced at the time. So we all had to be aware of this, right? Aggro jumping again, yellow eyes. But we still had, I think we were a little bit late on callouts here, yellow eyes. Like Benediction happened a split second late, and then that's why Andy died, right? So why, if you don't have a Sia there, why I recommend Shell into Benediction is because Benediction will cover two yellow eyes cycles, okay? So you see that one happen at 3 minutes. It's going to cover the next one as well, which again is huge for HP reducing, but also allows for your shell to come back up for the one following, right? So we ended up, you see that poison, we ended up stunning that poison just because I knew it was off a cooldown. Again, allows us to burst, DPS. Use your time leaps here, use your splits here as well. Communicate it when you want to use your bot, when you have your burst up, just to maximize damage, especially when it's your first, you're min-maxing DPS. So it's always good to know your rotations, things like that. But here's poison again, right? And the reason, like I mentioned, we would have had Benediction up, but the reason why Benediction was not available is because we stunned the poison previously, the yellow eyes previously, okay? So now we have yellow eyes here. We had cup. Whatever this is. This is the iframe, right? The C iframe. So we had an answer. Rinse and repeat. Long fight. You see people here, usually the lower DPS are the main cleansers, but there's something important that you guys have to understand is that you still have to have someone cleanse webs on the right side, and it cannot be, ideally, you don't want it to be this poison holder, this aggro, right? We had hat here. Is that cup? Another Sia OP skill, but you see me there going to dashing across to cleanse the webs, and then I blink right back and I come back. You see how fast that was? That was instant. And that's kind of what you need. So just keep that in mind, and I'll talk about how I handle this later in the tips and tricks kind of section. But you want to just make sure you don't want too many people jumping across and, cleansing the webs on the right. Just have one person solely do it, and everyone else focus on the left. Okay? And I'll talk about why that's later. So you can see things are starting to stabilize for the past few minutes. Poison, rinse and repeat, knockback. Oh, poison, knockback into yellow eyes. Here's yellow eyes. We have hourglass here ready for it. And we breeze through it. Again, see ya, disgusting class, right? So this is why I thought it was easy in my previous guide, but I'm going to talk about later on how you can counter this and things that people run into issues wise that really makes yellow eyes very, very challenging. Okay, so poison here, yellow eyes again, benediction was up here. So quickly, you can see how we're all positioned here, right? We're not all spread apart here, and there's a reason for that. And I think we actually could have been positioned a little bit better, but we had a lot of wiggle room because of the Sia skill. Okay, Sia skill is OP, but we're actually kind of we're actually not positioned correctly. But I'll talk about that later. And as you can see, look how sweaty this is. 30 seconds left here. We have the best gear in the game at this time. Okay, but remember, this was no ignoring me defense. I think max damage cap was probably in the 60s. You can see he's only hitting 46 mils here. And he's full 60 gear. But you can see webs get crazy, right? You see webs are stun locking everybody. And no one's really there to cleanse because it gets tougher to cleanse here as well at the end of the fight. But people are doing a good job here. And like, look at this. We have 9-10 lives left. We pretty much played near as good as it gets. Barely any mass deaths. I don't think we ever used Bishop Res once. And it literally came down to the last 10 seconds of a 15-minute fight. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. You can do everything right and it can still be that close at this time. This is our first clear in NA. Crazy. But this may be what your first clears are like. Hopefully it's not. You have the damage and you just need the mechanics. But this is why I chose this video, because this is like locked in. Everything went smoothly. We had some hiccups and it still was a 15-minute fight. Jeez. Okay. So that is phase 3. I went over all the mechanics, all the little things, and I'm going to get into a guide, kind of the tips and tricks, right? There's a lot to unpack there in phase 3 that I think is very important that goes unnoticed. All right. So as we get into this, right, the main things again is poison, yellow eyes. Okay. So we'll focus on that first. So as aggros are getting, so poison here, like I mentioned before, I'll repeat myself, poison is the indicator for yellow eyes. Either poison is going to go straight into yellow eyes like this, or we'll look on the next one. Let's see, 30 seconds down the line. Let's see, is this poison right here? Okay. Or poison here, literally 30 seconds later, into a knockback skill, into yellow eyes. Okay. So we'll start off with that, right? And this is super important that people don't understand. Okay. First, how do you counter this? So as you can see, if you don't know, yellow eyes is an HP scaling skill. So it's about, I want to say it's about 70%, 70-80% at the time. And so things like Shell, Benediction, Sia's skills, HP reducing, like Battle Mage's Bubble, like even Phantom Shell, it's going to have value here. But the most important thing is you have to understand right here, this is actually, like, even if you have an answer here, like a HP scaling skill, if you are not in the right position, you're actually still going to wipe. And so this one was very fortunate because we had a Sia. Sia and iframes and Hourglass is broken, but if you don't have Sia, this is what you need to do. You see here, this spike here is huge, right? So there's a spot here that you're actually going to get hit by this spider leg and this spider leg. So you're going to get hit double damage. So even if you have HP reducing skills like Shell or Benediction and you're dying here, it is most likely because you are in the wrong spot. You're taking double damage from these spider legs. Okay. So where do you want to stand is the question, right? As you can see here, there is, like, you kind of want to be over here, right? You kind of want to be close here to only take hit from one spider leg. Okay. You're still going to get hit, but you don't want to be stuck here where we all are and get hit twice. So the ideal spot is, again, where you see the poison here. There's two things you can do, right? You can either blink as yellow eyes comes onto the boss, aka where poison is most likely going to be, the poison holders be, and you're not going to take any damage but the poison holders damage, which is manageable. You'll blink in, you'll come right back out immediately, okay, to your reposition. Or if you just stand right here, the edge of the poison mist, taking damage from it, you'll actually survive, okay? So even, for example, if you were at full health and Shell was not up, Benediction was not up, you didn't have an answer, you didn't have an iframe either, you technically should survive here at full health from a yellow eyes skill. Okay, so if you are dying here, it is most likely because a lot of times it's those people that drift. A lot of ranged attackers, mages and archers, they drift away from the rest of the team, thinking that they're safer farther away, but they're actually getting comboed here, right? So you kind of want to be right here at the edge of the poison. Like, I think most of these people are fine. They could be a step closer, but it's these people right here that are going to get comboed, right? So if you're dying, look at this positioning. Are you one of these drifters here that are getting comboed by spider legs here and here? Or are you here and only getting hit by one, right? And so this is also important because it's relative to the poison holder, right? So if your poison holder is kind of drifting here as well, then those positions change accordingly. So again, it's a combination of the aggro knowing where to go and the rest of the team in accordance. But if you understand that there is if you understand this kind of picture right here of how the webs, like if you can record your videos and stop it right here, and you see that people are dying in this spot here, they're getting comboed, right? And if these people are surviving, it's because they're only getting hitting once. And if maybe they're getting hitting twice here, they should take a step closer to the poison holder, right? Or if the poison holder is all the way out here, then these adjust, right? So every team is different, but if you are dying here and failing phase 3, it is, and dying to yellow eyes, it is because of this positioning right here. So be aware, be cognizant of your relation, your position to the poison holder, and the poison holder should be staying in the same spot as well. All right, so now I want to talk about aggro, okay, slash the poison holder, okay, because as you saw in this run, aggro was jumping left and right all over it. Literally everyone at one point got aggro here. If you're aggro, step 1, please do not be within poison holder range, okay? That's step 1. You have to be out here. You have to be farther out on the right side. You do not want Will facing left and hitting everybody on the left, right? Same as phase 1 and phase 2. But you want to be outside. You don't want to be standing here and just eating all this poison damage and all the frontal attack skills. But if you are, once you stabilize your aggro still has to understand a little bit of these skills that are rotations, okay? So we'll walk through here, okay? So there's a super important phase here where if you get caught in a bad spot, like poison isn't here, for example, right? Poison is about to proc right there, okay? But let's see at this spot. So poison's here, got stunned. Okay. Yellow eyes. No poison. Let's back up here. 1:32 minute mark. Okay. Oh, here it is. Perfect. Here's the example I'm talking about. Okay. So you see poison holders here. Knockback. And he blinks back here. Okay. So now your blink is off a cooldown. There's an instance in this fight, in the rotation, where it's going to knock back right before poison, okay? Let me show you that again. So if you get knocked back here, and for some reason your aggro does not have blink, and they're not the closest person to, so that's actually double. That was actually double knockbacks. So it looked like a knockback once, and then a knockback again, or an attack again, into a blink, into poison. So poison's gonna be next. So if there's gonna be an instance here where if the aggro isn't aware, and he's not the closest person poison triggers, it's obviously going to go to someone over here, right? The next closest person. Okay, so this is two parts with the aggro as well as just someone having knowledge and being aware if the poison holder, if they know when poison is coming and the poison holder is not in position. He's still stuck in this corner because he can't get back. Right? So if that happens, you're most likely going to see you're either one, if poison comes over here, you're just going to have to adjust, right? You're just going to have to adjust that person, whoever it is, everyone's going to have to move out of the way, see who poison is, and they're going to have to go onto the right side, okay? And away from the rest of the team, because last thing you want is a poison holder just doing tick damage to everybody. But again, this is everyone's responsibility. This happens, right? But this is through experience. So, and how you know poison, again, when it's coming, is there's a small window, right? Poison's proccing here, and there's a small few attacks in between, and then poison again. So there's a few times where you'll see poison is not available. That's how you know poison is coming next. So if you don't see there's no green and your aggro's all the way in the corner stuck, you may have to just slide up here, take the poison, right? And get it away from the team, right? I've done that before where I know my poison holder isn't going to make it back in time to be the closest. I just slide up here, and if he blinks back in time, perfect, right? Then nothing, no harm, no foul. But if he's not back in time, I'll take poison, I'll move into position, I'll communicate, okay, here is, I got poison, aggro will move farther out here, whatever it is, or maybe aggro will come back here, I'll be poisoned all the way out here, and then stabilize, okay? But you just got to understand, this is a sneaky way for the team for chaos to ensue. When the aggro dies for one, or if poison shifts to the wrong person, chaos, right? Because you know what that means? That means that that poison, people are trying to dodge, and then they're out of position for the yellow eyes that's coming right after, right? So it's like a two-part, it snowballs as far as the issues. Okay, you're looking at more things, but let's be real. This happens. Aggro dies or aggro gets out of position, and you have to adjust to these situations. So I'm just preparing you guys for all the possible scenarios when things aren't smooth. Okay, when things aren't lined up perfectly, when aggro jumps around, when poison goes to the wrong person, when aggro dies. Okay, you have to be able to, as a team and as individuals, know, okay, we have to be able to adjust on the fly, figure it out, communicate, and still have answers, okay? And the last two things I want to talk about is one, quickly, right? Yellow eye or poison comes about every 30 seconds, okay? So 105 here, that's how I know poison's coming around. I think it got stunned here. That's not an example. 135. So here's poison at 1:30, and so around the 2-minute mark, right? Poison's going to come back here. So it could be, depending, it can be about 25, just under 30 seconds, okay? So about 25 to 30 seconds, depending on the rotation. So just be aware. Like if you have, like I know Wind Archers and Blaze Wizards right now have their 30-second iframe, you should most likely have an answer to every poison timing wise. Okay, so just keep that in mind. If you have something like that, easy. Like Demon Slayers have the Ravenstorm every 30 seconds. You can pretty much have it available for every poison. So don't just rely on your party skills, your Seers, your Bishops, or whatever. You should know that in 30 seconds, the next poison, if the Seer or the Bishop, there's no party skills, HP reducing skills available, communicate it, and everyone has to be checking what skills they have in their toolkit to counter. Okay? And then this also, on top of that, is super important as far as why I prefer Shell then Benediction as the rotation. Okay, so let's talk about this quickly. So right here, this team has Benediction up. Unfortunate, but we have a Sia. Okay, but knowing that it's on about a 30-second cooldown between poisons, here's how it times out, right? So the first one, you're going to stun. So right off the bat, right when the boss starts, you stun because it goes poison, yellow eyes, or it's going to poison, knockback into yellow eyes here. So we stunned it to skip it, okay? That's step one. That counters the first yellow eyes. Okay, so let's say 30 seconds later, here's yellow eyes. We use shell. Okay, shell is perfect because what happens is shell is what on a 90-second cooldown. You may have multiple shells. You'll just have answers to the test, right? So the way it works is the first one you have a stun. 30 seconds after you have shell. Then 30 seconds after that, you have benediction for the next two, right? So that's a minute at 60 seconds and then 90 seconds in. So theoretically, if you do this properly with the bishop or whatever you have, right, you covered 4 straight yellow eyes without having, just with the bishop and a stun alone. Okay, so theoretically, either you're just going to have that fifth one be an iframe or everyone's just going to have to figure out a way to survive that for that fifth one. But then on the sixth one, right, about 2.5 minutes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, on the sixth one, then you'll have stun back up for the poison, then you'll have shell back up, and then you'll have benediction back up, or whatever it is, right? You could even have, for that fifth one, you could even have shell back up, right, if you time leaped or something. Just the way that it times out, right? Let's walk through this again. Stun the first one at 0, 0. 30 seconds in, you'll use shell. 60 seconds in, you use benediction. 90 seconds in, you use benediction again. Our benediction will still blast, right? And then at 120, at the 2-minute mark, you could have shell back up if it's a 90-second cooldown. If you end up speccing into that, use time leap. Or you just use a party iframe, or use a team, use your individual class iframes, and then you'll have that cycle all rinse and repeat. Stun, shell, benediction for the next two. You could use time leap, shell again, right? And so you'll have answers to every single yellow eyes theoretically because it's on a 30-second cooldowns, and if you do it that way, right? So that's just an example of what I do and how I time it out and why I time it out that way, to use my stuns and my bishop by itself to just have answers to the test, the yellow eyes test. Okay, and the last thing is in phase 3, and it's very underrated and sneaky, but I talked about it, about how I only have one person going to cleanse the webs on the right side. And the reason for this is when a lot of people start crossing over here, they don't really pay attention, right? A lot of people aren't paying attention to when poison is up, when it's coming, what attacks are coming. They're just like, they just see webs. They think, let's just cleanse it. Let's just cleanse. That is no harm. But what happens sometimes, not always, sometimes, is as they're coming back, right? It's just a bad timing where poison comes back up and they end up being the closest person to the boss and they end up getting poison and they don't even notice it. They jump back into the rest of the team and party and chaos ensues, right? So you saw right there, I'm here going to, you see me right here, I'm going to jump across, press my gauge. Poison is not up here, right? So I know poison's coming back quickly. So, but you see how quickly I get in and out of there? I cleanse the 2 webs, I blink back immediately to the boss, and I'm out of there within a few seconds, right? That happened very fast, but not everyone necessarily is as quick as me. But if you have someone that is aware of that and knows how to do it, then just one person is enough, right? Especially if you have your aggro using sacro, right? They have iframes, they have stuns. They're pretty much immune to a lot of damage. It just makes it a lot easier when one person versus like 5 people trying to cross, right? And it's just more risk of them getting knocked back, getting hit by unnecessary damage, or getting poisoned on their way back and then bringing it back to the team, right? So that is a super minor thing. But if you run into this issue, just have everyone focus on the left side and one person going right. And if for some reason that one person cleansing on the right doesn't have enough gauge or can't cleanse the webs, then just communicate. Can I have one person cleanse the right? And then it'll just be, work out that way. Right? So it's just little things like that that you don't really notice, right? You're not going to be able to see it in the fight. Like if you're watching this a million times, you probably won't even pick up on it. But until you experience it, until you have it happen to you where that person gets poisoned and kills the rest of the team, you don't really see it. So hopefully I'm trying to prevent that, allow you guys to be proactive and have some sort of coordination, just understanding of why you may be running into these issues, and just try to keep it as simple as possible so that every week people know their roles, know what they can focus on, and they're not deviating and they're not caught off guard by certain things when it happens, right? I'm giving you all the information, all the things, the most common ways for you to for things to go chaotic and for things to go bad, so that you can be prepared for it and have answers to it accordingly. Okay, so I hope this helps. Long guide, right? Really, really long guide, but I hope it at least gives you guys all the answers to the test that you need, and hopes it gets you guys the clears for the arcane gear and getting that next tier of armor. Sick, right? Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.